The frame-up of FRI, or Financial Resilience Index, is pretty straightforward. We've always been on with research. It's kind of part of our calling card, understanding the pulse of what's happening in New Zealand. And back in 2020, we actually conducted our first bit of research, not knowing that within a couple of months we were about to head into COVID. So it almost became ground zero data. We did want to understand how New Zealanders were thinking about their broader outlook on their financial lives, broadly around wellbeing, how they felt about jobs, kind of how they felt about all of those things connected together. And so what we then did, as we, for some of us, lived the trauma of the COVID years, was to kind of then track that every single year and let's see what's actually happened. We've now got 5-year data. What we're actually showing today is just 3 years of data from 22, 23 and 24. And there are questions that we're asking about. I'm extremely confident about my financial decisions. I'm very confident. And you can see this sort of data is actually looking fairly strong. People are confident about what's going on. But if you pick up the newspapers today and having seen the Reserve Bank data turn up, the Stats NZ unemployment data turn up, there's a lot that sits under the water level here that we think is probably the truest story. People are going to do it tough. We are in tough times, and navigating in a resilient way is going to become really important. We also asked the question about how long could you run your current lifestyle on your savings. So this is almost like your rainy day discussion. How well will you do? Anything that turns up in orange and dark orange are concerning numbers, and you can kind of see how that's playing. So 70% of New Zealanders are worrying about money daily, weekly or monthly. That's pretty alarming. You know, how many people are going to bed at night going, can I pay my credit card bill? Can I make my mortgage repayment? Do I need to make trade-offs? Are there any things that I need to do? And we're starting to see that, particularly if you had a mortgage interest rate, when you invested it, say over the last 5 years, it had a 2 or a 3 in front of it. We know that's now rolling over to the bankers amongst us. It's generally got a 6 in front of it. So that's double your mortgage. Where's that coming from? What trade-offs are you making? So you can see on this slide, what are people most concerned about? The bottom 3 circles are probably the most alarming. Inflation is nuts. 89% are really concerned about inflation in 2024. Interest rates are not far behind, about 75%. And house prices, you can start to see that cooling. And having just sold our place on Waiheke Island, I can tell you that that's a sample size of 1. That's exactly what's happening. Not as many people out buying. People are a little bit nervous to commit. Buyers are holding off on the sidelines. Financial literacy is in many ways the game changer here. You know, we've been in conversation, Sam, with the FMA. We've been in conversation with the Retirement Commission. We've been in conversation across the membership. This is the gateway to change, but there are still concerning elements here about people making good decisions and right decisions at the right point in time. To our financial advice and fans colleagues in the room, we know that financial advice is often the difference between making the right decision at the right time, but also not making the wrong decision at the wrong time. And we saw at the start of COVID in March of 2020, people bailed out of markets, sold out, took the loss, and then guess what happened? The market reinflated and then they came in at higher prices. So that's stopping people to make bad decisions kind of really important. And you can kind of see it there was a really sad, confronting article in Stuff a couple of weeks ago. They rang the FSC about this young family. The mum just got diagnosed with breast cancer. 3 months before, she pulled the pin on her life insurance. I'm healthy, I'm all good, and she's kind of been diagnosed with 12 months to live. So those you can put down to people making trade-offs in fairly tough times and having the literacy and understanding to make the right point at the right time. Some really interesting stuff here as we point into KiwiSaver. So other than bank accounts, KiwiSaver is the ubiquitous product that most Kiwis hold, and that's why across the FSC, we've been calling now for a very strong, wide-ranging review. It is the pathway to get people to make right decisions and good decisions, to save for the long term, to perhaps have some sidecar conversation, perhaps even with a little bit of insurance as they have across the ditch. But we know numbers are not strong enough. We're at 100 bill today. We're going to be at $1 trillion if we do nothing by 2050, according to the FSC data. But we're sitting across the ditch. 12% of people's salaries goes in. There's $3.5 trillion. It pays for infrastructure. It pays for an ASX. It pays for lots of things. And whilst Australia's not New Zealand and vice versa, it's about what can we learn from other jurisdictions. But I do think in this data, there's a lot to learn. Financial preparedness is the can I find $5,000 if I really needed it. Again, some pretty interesting data coming through there. Two last points before I invite David up. One is around job security. So unemployment rate today went up from 4 to 4.3%. What we know is that at the start of COVID, the money that was put into the system pretty much kept New Zealand fully employed. And then when all the money turned up, there was the boom and people stayed employed. That's now starting to shift. So what we're starting to see is some of this data come through, and we would expect this to continue to go through. And I know from a lot of conversations around the traps, around employment and propensity to employ or to hold, to freeze, these are real conversations. Last slide, which is probably the overarching piece. And so this is kind of the link between money and well-being. And so what we've demonstrated over the last 5 years is your money life and your well-being life are intrinsically connected. The stronger you are in having your money life sorted, so it impacts and plays on your well-being. They're not completely causative, obviously. There's lots of people who live on not much and go surfing every day, go fishing and have a fantastic life. But in terms of the financial piece, having yourself sorted, having a roof over your heads, having some money in the bank becomes important. And this becomes concerning when people are worrying about money daily, weekly or monthly. The other and the last thing to say about this is that this data, when we tease into it, we're not sharing it today, but it is in the report, it's different experience for different generations. So if you are people in your 40s, 50s and 60s and 70s, have assets, have property, have saved, have taken advantage of booms previously, much stronger position. You're also getting over 6% depending on who your friendly bank is. So, you know, the flip on high mortgage rates is high interest rates coming through for savers. But for generation rent, so the under 40s are the people who've done it most tough through COVID and now coming out the other end. They're typically the under 40s, they're typically not homeowners. They're typically people who, when shocks turn up, aren't really prepared for the rainy day. And when you look at some of the nonsense that you can get from finfluencers out on social media and let's buy crypto and we're all going to be Bitcoin champions and legends, you can kind of see it's a really tricky conversation to have out there. Which brings me to the final piece, which is, and that's why this sector is so important, because we serve millions and millions and millions of Kiwis every day and every week, and we're the people who can be the agents for change, not just the people who help invest and help save, but actually more than that. And so I think that's our challenge. That's really where we need to head to. And so to unpack the perspective, I'm going to invite the very excellent David Bishop. Will probably be winemaker of the year at some point with Jasper Ridge. And David, tell us, if you will, so you've followed this research now for since we've been doing. What are the kind of key themes and trends that you're seeing?
Sure. I mean, well, looking from 2020 when we first started this, the housing was coming over the hill, up to now, a lot of the indicators have actually improved. So if you look about financial confidence, what figures here, 78% that we were 2020, up to 85% and more. So I would say that it's pretty good. The problem with some of these that have improved is that's just starting to get back down again. And so we see that in the financial confidence, which, for example, the high is 88%, and that's now 55%. So that starts to sort of ring some alarm bells when you're thinking about, okay, well, people are generally more confident or generally marking, but actually the highly studied is it.
That's kind of interesting, right? Because we now do have a 5-year perspective. I mean, what would you expect to see over the next 2 to 3 years as we kind of head into choppy waters?
Yeah, so the whole discussion around the unemployment, the job security is pretty basically neat in our research, the unemployment confidence. So as people, as the unemployment rate goes up, I suspect people will be getting slightly more concerned about their job security, which will have an impact, I think, on their financial confidence in that space. I think the outlier with all of this is adversely affecting well-being, and that has continued to rise in the wrong direction or go in the wrong direction. So it's started up about 50% to now at 63%. So this connection between money and well-being, I think, is an important one, and something that, despite the work that everybody in this room is doing, is still not really having a huge impact on changing that and why it helps get some motivation from these.
I was asked, I've been on the media today, but you and I are talking about it. Are there any green shoots? Is there any optimism coming out of these reports over a period of time?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think what it's showing is this is the sort of boom and bust, the wrong word to put it as, but this sort of sine wave of activity where through COVID people were more confident, had more savings, and then now as we've gone through this recessional cycle, it kind of really taken it down. So I think what we'll see is we'll start reeling up and smoothing off, and it just really pushes that discussion what debate around saving in good times to look after the when it's a bit hard. And I think over the next 2 or 3 years, we'll have a kind of black swan event on COVID data, we'll have a recession event, and hopefully we'll have some data which will help to lead also some of those conversations. So I think that's one thing. I think the other point, going back to Kiwi Saver, that you mentioned earlier, I think last time the recession talked ago, it was nowhere near the 100 billion that's in by now. So there, although people may be taking out the scholarship, there are some funds that are for people. And certainly we think about retirement preparedness, that's one of the ones that's actually continued to grow over 5 years and would simply continue, provided that we get the Kiwi Saver settings and review them.
Last question, not one that we spoke about before, but given your previous role working in Europe and with Insurance Europe, I mean, what was the sense of the kind of research and outcomes that the industry bodies there ran in terms of keeping a pulse on what was happening for consumers in Brussels or the UK or whatever?
Yeah, I think looking globally, and not just in Europe, but globally, we're not alone. Everyone's in a sticky situation. I think reading around some of the Insurance Europe stuff and some of the stuff out of America, this discussion that interest rates, we hope would start to drop a bit quicker than perhaps they may do now. So we're feeling this might be sticky enough for longer, and I think that's got to be Europe and America and everywhere across the globe. So I think it's just important to we're not the only people going through this, and making it clear that the world was unfreaking and having this issue.
Awesome, thank you, David. So this research is available. There's plenty more to come over the balance of the year. We asked lots more questions about life insurance, about health insurance, about Kiwi Saver, about financial advice. So they'll come out through the balance and also through the various CEO forums. So with that, David, thank you.
Thank you.